my live stream lecture. And before we get in today's very important lecture, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please support my channel. Subscribe to my channel as we head towards the year of 2023. And I'm very, very close to hitting my first 1,200 subscriber milestone. So please support my channel. Hit that subscribe button right now. And also share my channel with one person you know in the real world. Have them to check out a couple of my live stream lectures and let them make the decision on whether or not they want to subscribe. I'll just need for you to share my channel with one person you know. And so with that being said, let's get down to today's very important live stream lecture. But before I get into this lecture, because it's going to be a activity assignment that I'm going to give at the end of this lecture. So I'm going to take a moment to allow you to go get a piece of paper and something to write with, because you will need to have that readily available at the end. So go ahead and do that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to just take a couple of sips of my coffee. And I hope everyone is getting ready for the holidays, the Christmas holidays, the New Year's holidays. I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving holiday and just spending time with family. So the focus of this lecture is going to be relapse to alcohol and drugs is very, very real during the holidays. I'm going to say that again. Although holidays is a joyous event, but, as the audience is aware, I'm a licensed clinical addiction specialist. I clinically supervise other addiction experts who work in a residential substance abuse treatment program for adults, and all of those adults in that program, we're currently at full capacity, have been court ordered by a judge to get some help with their addiction. So relapse to alcohol and drugs is very, very real during the holidays. And unfortunately, treatment facilities all over the world get extremely, extremely busy during the holiday season. And it's the reason why relapse is so high during joyous times of the year. And I'm going to explain that later on in the lecture. But before I go into the specific reason why substance abuse clients and individuals who are in recovery from alcohol or drugs, the reason why there's such an astronomical rate of relapse during the holiday. So before I can talk about that, I just want to share and talk a little bit about tolerance. Tolerance occurs when someone repeatedly uses alcohol or other drugs over time. The body no longer reacts to the substance the same way it did the first time. So the person consumes the substance, they're going to need more and more and more of the substance to receive the same effect. And when I talk about substance, I'm talking about all mood-altering substance, the alcohol, the drugs, the cocaine, the methamphetamines, the Xanax, the benzos, the list goes on and on. So tolerance occurs when someone repeatedly uses alcohol or other drugs over time, and the body no longer reacts to the substance the same way. So it's going to need more and more to receive the same effect. A good example of that is a person may have gotten a buzz off a few drinks, whether it's alcohol, liquor, and now over time, they no longer get a buzz after a few drinks. They're going to need several drinks, 5 drinks, 8 drinks, more and more and more of the alcohol to receive the same effect. Or rather, it's the drugs, the opiate pills, the Xanax, the benzos, the cocaine, the phenethol, the morphine. It may have taken a smaller amount to receive to get the effects the high from the drug, but now over time, because the body has adapted to that amount, it's going to take more and more and more to receive the same effect. That's a really good example of increased tolerance. I'm going to talk about different types of tolerance in this lecture, so pay attention. So with increased tolerance, the brain may not feel euphoria or could experience coordination problems with increased tolerance that develops over time. The level of tolerance and the length of time it takes for tolerance to develop depends on a number of factors. And I'm going to deliberately keep this lecture in basic mode, because understand, ladies and gentlemen, I'm credentialed in multiple states. There is a science behind addiction, but I'm going to deliberately keep this in a simple mode so I can get my point across. But there is some information that I really do want the audience to pay attention to as I talk about these different types of tolerance. And basically, the level of tolerance and the length of time it takes for tolerance to develop depends on a number of factors. And one of those factors is genetics. Biology plays a significant role in the way the body reacts to alcohol and other drugs. And when I say genetics, that's going to tie into another type of tolerance I'm going to talk about, and which is the initial tolerance. There is a increased tolerance or acquired tolerance that develops over time, and then there's also an initial. Here we go. There is a initial tolerance. And the initial tolerance is established by our genetics, our biology. We have no control of that. And what an initial tolerance determines is our initial response to alcohol or other drugs. When that person first take that first drink or first use of drugs, that initial tolerance, which is controlled by our biology, determines our initial response to the alcohol or drugs. So some people, when they first start drinking, initially they can take one drink and immediately feel a buzz. Some people, because of their biology, when they take that first drink, they don't feel anything. It may take 4 or 5 drinks to feel the buzz of the alcohol or the substance. And the reason why that varies from person to person, because that initial tolerance is determined by our genetic makeup. That's the science behind addiction. Some drugs causes tolerance more quickly than others. The environment in which a person consumes alcohol or drugs also plays a larger role in his or her level of intoxication. So now you got biology plays a role, the environment plays a role, and I'm here to tell you. And so you remember how I talked about that initial tolerance? That initial tolerance that is established by our genetic makeup, that initial tolerance, like I said, determines our initial response to alcohol or other drugs. And then we also have, I'm going to talk about an increase or acquired tolerance. An increase or acquired tolerance develops over time. That increase or acquired tolerance is when a person starts out using a lower amount of alcohol or drugs and they no longer feel a buzz from that. So now they're going to need more and more and more and more and more of the alcohol and drugs to receive the same effect. That's a clear description of increase or acquired tolerance that develops over time. Because a lot of people, they may start out drinking a few beers or using a small amount of drugs. Then as time go on, they no longer getting the impairment from that. So they're going to begin to increase the amount of the alcohol or drugs that they're using. And that is what we call in the field of addiction, an increase or acquired tolerance that develops over time. Another type of tolerance I want to talk about and pay attention is decreased tolerance. Decreased tolerance to alcohol or drugs. And a good example of that When people enter recovery from alcohol or drugs, when they're no longer using, say if they go 1 month without using alcohol or drugs, or 6 months, or 1 year, or 5 years, or 20 years, or 90 days of no alcohol or drug use consumed in their body, what's going to occur now, since they're no longer using, they're going to begin to experience a decrease in tolerance over time, because they either have decreased the amount of that they're using, or all the way stop the using the alcohol or drugs. So that's a good example of decrease in tolerance over time. And as people begin to sustain their sobriety from alcohol or drugs, what's going to happen is that tolerance is going to return back to the initial point, that initial tolerance that's controlled by our genetic makeup that determines our initial response to alcohol or drugs. So now I've introduced the audience to the initial tolerance. I've introduced the audience to the increased acquired tolerance, and I introduced the audience to a decrease in tolerance when people go into recovery or decrease the amount that they use. They're going to begin to experience a decrease in tolerance from the alcohol or substance. A good example of that is a person may have required several drinks of alcohol, liquor, vodka, 6-7 drinks to feel a buzz, or 6-7 use of whatever the other drugs they're using to feel the effects of the high. But when they begin to go into recovery or start use, they're going to show a decrease in tolerance. If they hadn't used in a while and they gone 3, 4, 5 years without using, and they use again, they're going to begin to see that they can feel the impairments of the substance with a lower amount compared to when they used in the past. So that's a good description of decrease in tolerance. And then we have, which is the most important that we see, which is really not a good sign, is inverse tolerance. And I'm going to explain to the audience on what exactly is inverse tolerance. Inverse tolerance, this mainly applies to, we see this in addiction for people who are in active addiction from that with the alcohol or drugs. They have been using for quite a while over time. And sometimes use, now whatever the drug of choice is, the alcohol, the vodka, the cocaine, the methamphetamine, the Xanax, the opiate pills. So now they have acquired an increase in tolerance, an acquired tolerance where they need more and more and more of the alcohol or drugs to receive the same effect. And I mean, use is out of control. They got years of experience of substance use and alcohol use, and it's becoming very, very difficult to even feel a buzz anymore. They may have now, I've heard from clients where their alcohol or drug use had got so high to over $2,000 a month on alcohol or drug use. Imagine the amount of consumption of that. So that's a clear example of increased acquired tolerance over time. But what inverse tolerance is, what happens over time is now what people in late phases of addiction will begin to see, that they can use more and more and more and more and more of the alcohol or drugs, but tolerance begins to drop. That don't make sense. Because the more you use, your tolerance is supposed to go up. You decrease use, your tolerance go down. But in late stages of addiction, what happens now is the person begins to use more and more and more of the alcohol or drugs, but tolerance drops. That's inverse. And the reason why the tolerance is inverse, because they have now damaged all of the organs, internal organs in the body. The alcohol, the drugs is the organs is no longer metabolizing the alcohol, the drugs. So now they can use a whole lot, but tolerance drop because the organs are damaged. And sometimes they can use a whole lot and not feel a thing. And when you see inverse tolerance, sometimes they can use a little bit and it wipes them out. That's not a good sign, because what's happening, the organs are shutting down. Now you're getting into the alcohol and drug related health problems. They may need an organ transplant, cirrhosis of the liver, all of the organs are damaged. So in late stages of addiction, sometimes they can use a whole lot, but the tolerance drop. They literally, it's unpredictable tolerance. In the field of addiction, we call it an inverse tolerance or unpredictable tolerance, because sometimes they can use a whole lot and not feel a thing, and sometimes they can use a little bit and it wipes them out because the organs are damaged. And at that stage of the game, they're gonna need medical detox. They're gonna need intervention. They're gonna need the inner treatment to save their life. So that's in the field of addiction. Now we know about the initial tolerance. That initial tolerance is established by our genetic makeup, our biology. That initial tolerance determines our initial response to the alcohol or drugs. The initial tolerance does not move. It doesn't go up. It doesn't go down. It's stationary because it's controlled by our biology. And then we got the increased acquired tolerance that develops over time. The more and more the alcohol and drugs the person use, the more and more they're going to need to use the same effect. And then we have the decrease in tolerance. When people go into recovery, what's going to happen is their tolerance is going to decrease and return back to the initial point. And then in the late stages of addiction, we see in the field of addiction what we call inverse or unpredictable tolerance. That means some days they can use a whole lot of the alcohol or drugs and don't feel a thing. But when they use a whole lot, tolerance dropping. And that's because the organs are damaged. And some days, because of the inverse tolerance and the organs are damaged, they can use a little bit and it wipes them out. And that's not a good sign. So I think as an addiction expert, it's very important to understand really what's going on with these different types of tolerance, a little bit of the biology and the genetics of addiction. So now, since we know that, I'm going to guide us towards the reason why people who are suffering from the disease of alcoholism or drug addiction and who could be in recovery, but I'm going to talk about why they relapse, why relapse is so astronomically high for individuals who are in recovery from alcohol or drugs. I don't care if they've been in recovery for 30 days or 90 days or 1 year or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. I've seen people with 20 years of recovery under their belt with zero alcohol or drug use for 20 years and relapse during the holidays. And I'm here to tell you, this is real. This is real. We need to bring awareness to this. I was going to do a different lecture this morning, but my spirit guided me to do this lecture on the reason why people relapse during the holidays. Relapse to alcohol or drugs is very, very real during the holidays. So let me break this thing down to you. The number one contributing factor on why individuals relapse during the holidays is of the power of the psychological dependency, mental addiction. And when I talk about psycho, that's mental, that's mind. Because most people in the population think people mainly relapse because of physical withdrawal. Say if they are in active addiction and trying to quit cold turkey, and as the alcohol or drugs leave their body, that's when they feel their worst. The irritability, the shakes, sometimes feel like something's crawling under the skin. So that's physical withdrawal. And what people would do to take away those symptoms of physical withdrawal is use their alcohol or drugs to take away those symptoms of withdrawal. But in reality, it's not physical withdrawal in terms of what causes relapse. It's the psychological dependency, the mental addiction. And what makes that so powerful is the state-dependent learning. And what state-dependent learning is when people who have been in recovery for years, but prior to going in recovery, people who are in active addiction may not have ever experienced in their life being sober during the holidays, doing sober during Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, because during those holiday times when they were truly in their active addiction, getting drunk, high, using the drugs, the cocaine, the methamphetamine, the Xanax, the benzos, shooting up heroin, the harder drugs, the marijuana, so deep in their addiction during the holidays. And what state dependent learning is when an individual becomes accustomed to getting drunk or high during the holidays, rather it's Thanksgiving, New Year's, Christmas. They get accustomed to when they go to those holiday events, family events, they only could do that when they're drug impaired or alcohol impaired. So state dependent learning is when a person becomes accustomed to performing certain tasks, skills, or duties, or doing certain activities, family events and functions, only when they're alcohol or drug impaired. Going on holiday vacations, only when they're alcohol or drug impaired. Going to certain family members to eat that Christmas dinner, only when they're alcohol or drug impaired. They're going to bring their alcohol or drugs with them. Trust me, they're going to have a stash of alcohol or drugs on them at that family holiday family event, that holiday family function, when everybody is sitting around that table eating that holiday meal, laughing, talking. Physically they may be there, but their mind is on something else. So what state dependent learning is when a person becomes accustomed to doing certain tasks, skills, duties, or activities only when they're alcohol or drug impaired. And that state dependent learning is going to drive their addiction. It's going to propel them deeper into their addiction. So that's what state dependent learning is. A person, when they go Christmas shopping might be Christmas shopping to me and you, but for some people, when they were in their active addiction, they were going Christmas shopping. They can only do that when they're alcohol or drug impaired. Buying those Christmas gifts, only when they're alcohol or drug impaired. Decorating the house for Christmas, only when they're alcohol or drug impaired. So that's what state dependent learning is, when a person becomes accustomed to doing certain tasks, skills, duties, events, decorations, holiday events, only when they're alcohol or drug impaired. And then we have the preoccupation, which is the second component of psychological dependency. So for people who are in recovery, prior to them going into recovery, and even if they're in recovery, what preoccupation is that they become mentally obsessed with feeding their addiction. They can be at a family event, at that family holiday event, at that family holiday meal, or that family vacation. Physically, they're there, but their mind really is on worrying about feeding their addiction, sneaking into the bathroom, using more drugs to get high, making sure they don't go through withdrawals. So physically they're there, but mentally their mind is on, I got to feed my addiction. Or even if they've been in recovery for several years, they still have to deal with that preoccupation, because now the holiday seasons is up, and Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. So when these holidays come up again for someone in recovery and they got to deal with preoccupation, their mind is going to return back to the time when they were in active addiction and being preoccupied with feeding their addiction. And then we got psychological defenses. Psychological defenses is like a powerful shield. It keeps a person, even when they're in relapse mode, it keeps the person from hearing the truth. When a person is in relapse mode, I don't care how long they've been in recovery, when a person is in relapse mode, they're going to begin to demonstrate certain behaviors before they even pick up. They're going to begin to demonstrate certain behaviors before they pick up. Rather, it's irritability, getting short temper, abruptly leaving a family event. They're going to demonstrate certain behaviors prior to returning to the alcohol or drug use. So what psychological defenses is, a family member or a sponsor or loved one or supported family member may approach the person and say, I'm concerned about, some of the behaviors I see. I'm concerned about how you're short temper, irritability, abruptly leaving, and because they're concerned. And the person may respond, well, leave me alone. I'm okay. I got it. Well, you thinking I'm using again? Psychological defenses is like a powerful shield to keep the person from hearing the truth, to keep you from hearing the truth. And then we got the relationship with the alcohol or drug use. I don't care if the person, has been in recovery for 1 month, 3 months, 1 year, 6 years, 20 years, prior to going into full recovery, when life was out of control, they destroyed all healthy relationships with friends, family members, sponsor, and they formulated a relationship with the primary drug of choice, the alcohol or the drugs. And so now, in recovery, they now have formulated a healthy relationship with friends, family members, sponsors, supported loved ones. But when a person is in relapse mode during the holidays, they're going to begin to disengage from those healthy relationships and seek out those unhealthy relationships, those old drinking buddies, those old using buddies, and etc. So all of this is a contributing factor in regards to why people in recovery will relapse during the holidays, because you got 4 powerful forces going against the person. You got the state-dependent learning, the preoccupation, the psychological defenses, and the relationship with the alcohol or drugs. We're talking about the mind, people. So that's why during the holidays, when we look at a nutcracker and go shopping for the holidays, to buy holiday gifts, to buy nutcrackers, to decorate our home. When we look at this, it can be joyous for us. But when a person who is in recovery, prior to going in recovery, when they can associate Christmas shopping when they were high, buying nutcrackers and Christmas gifts and going shopping for the holidays only when they were high, because that ties into state-dependent learning. I don't care how long the person has been in recovery, looking at a nutcracker could be a trigger. Looking at holiday decorations can be a trigger. Looking at that holiday meal could be a trigger, and can have an impact on causing the person to return back to the alcohol or drug use. So that is a big contributing factor in regards to why people in recovery struggle during the holidays, because of the power of psychological dependency. And that's why it's so important that people who are in recovery, I don't care how long they've been in recovery, coming from an addiction expert, it's going to be so important that they stay connected. It's going to be so important that they go to those AA meetings, those NA meetings, communicate with their sponsor, communicate with supported family members and loved ones who are not using, in order to get them through these holidays without relapse. Because I'm here to tell you, when a person relapses on alcohol or drugs, what's going to happen, I don't care how long they've been in recovery, it's going to release that addiction all over again with a vengeance. With a vengeance. And a lot of times they can overdose because the body has gone for so long without using, that they're high potential for overdose when they relapse. And I'm here to tell you, this is a real topic. This is real. I'm here to tell you, treatment programs all over the world get extremely busy during the holidays with people entering treatment because of their relapse, return back to alcohol and drugs. And I'm here to tell you. So I hope you all have gotten something out of this lecture. And the assignment that I'm going to give the viewer, the listener, your substance abuse assignment. This is powerful information. Make sure you share this information. Your assignment is on your paper is I want you to write down the different types of tolerance, the initial tolerance, write that down on your piece of paper, the inverse or acquired tolerance, the decreased tolerance, and the inverse tolerance. Write that down on your paper. It's almost like a essay. And once you have wrote those four different types of tolerance down on your paper, on your time, your assignment is, because I gave a thorough breakdown description explaining these four different types of tolerance. It's more than this, but I'm just focusing on the top four. And in your own words, on your paper, on your assignment, I want you to describe in your own words what is initial tolerance. I want you to describe in your own words what is inverse acquired tolerance. I want you to describe in your own words what is decreased tolerance. And I want you to describe in your own words inverse tolerance. So it's like you're going to give a brief description of these different types of tolerance to make sure you are paying attention. And this is good information. Keep this information. Share this information. That's your assignment I'm giving you. And you're going to know whether or not you completed this assignment. And then the second part of your assignment, make sure you are paying attention. Because what I'm giving you is substance abuse education at the graduate degree level for free. And I'm here to tell you. On your piece of paper, also, you're going to write down psychological dependency. Because I talked about psychological dependency in depth and breadth in this lecture. And then remember, there are four different types of there are four components. There are four components of psychological dependency. And for each component, you're going to write down the first one, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one, in no particular order. And for each component of psychological dependency, you're going to describe what it is. For example, I talked about state-dependent learning. So if you put state-dependent learning down, that's your first one, you're going to put down state-dependent learning, and you're going to describe what is state-dependent learning. And remember, state-dependent learning is when the person, when the user becomes accustomed to performing certain tasks, skills, duties, activities, Christmas shopping, only when they're alcohol or drug impaired. So for each component of psychological dependency, you're going to write it down what it is. Then for each one, you're going to describe what it is that I'm here to tell you. So that is your second part of your assignment. Again, audience, you're getting substance abuse counseling education, powerful information at the graduate degree level, free. I had to pay for my master's degree. So you're getting graduate degree information free of charge by an addiction expert, Marie Holiday. This is your assignment that I'm giving you. I'm going to hold you accountable to complete this assignment. And then once you have completed this assignment, then I want you to share this powerful information of your assignment in this upload to one person and educate that person. You got to pass it along because it does no good to hold on to information. You are going to share this powerful information, and it may mean that you may have to go back and re-listen to my description of psychological dependency, or re-listen to my description of the four different types of tolerance in the field of addiction. So yeah, do your due diligence. And then once you have done all that, you are going to share this powerful information, because this information may save somebody's life. Because I'm here to tell you, in everybody's family all over the world, there is someone in your family, in your bloodline, who is in active addiction right now or in recovery. And I'm here to tell you, make no mistake about that. There is someone right now in your family. There could be someone listening to this live stream right now, or shooting up heroin right now, battling the disease of addiction. So your assignment is to first complete your assignment, and you're going to share this powerful information with one person because if the audience is aware, I'm getting ready to exit out the field of addiction. I've been credentialed in multiple states for over 24 plus years. I'm excited as I head towards retirement. I'm returning all my credentials back to the various boards. That piece of paper don't define who I am. Who I am is ties into my upbringing, the environment I was raised in, my parents who I was raised by. That's what defined me, not a piece of paper. And even if I return all those credentials back to the board, I got the knowledge up here, right here. I'm here to tell you. So I also notice I have a supporter viewing in on my live stream lecture. I appreciate that support. I want to recognize my supporters. If the audience is aware, my format, my style of live stream lecture is live stream lecture versus dialogue, because this is powerful information. This information, I've done this lecture in treatment programs. I've done this lectures in universities. I've done this lectures in churches, and I'm here to tell you, but you're getting it on this social media platform free of charge, because when I go do these type of lectures as an addiction expert, trust me, I'm not doing it for free. And I'm here to tell you, you are getting this for free. So share this knowledge. So with that being said, that's all I have. And also, please do not forget to check out my powerful radio interview that I had October 2022 with a powerful radio station, where they interviewed me about the concept of awake financial freedom. Also, my book is getting ready to be showcased at a book show January of next year. I'm getting very excited about that. I'm going to do a live stream upload to give you all a little bit more particulars about my publishing company, getting ready to coordinate to showcase my book, Awake Financial Freedom, at a book show to get it in front of the masses. So this is a must-read book for 2023. And with that being said, that's all I have. Simplify, Simple Fidelis, and I'm going to leave you in the care of your own conscience. Have a great day.